posters.
Travel posters to places that may or may not exist.
Start with yours.
I did the Solstice Valley, which is the location of our ongoing D&D campaign, which features the Grey Tower. I'm also doing animations based on the Grey Tower stories.
Tusken's Tales. We'll link that.
Yeah, I have a whole YouTube channel with animated D&D stories, and the Grey Tower is like the story I'm focusing on right now. The Grey Tower is off in the woods, under some mountains, but not quite. That's probably a parapet from Faybridge. So I'm just kind of like marking out where everything's going to go. I ended up doing like a stylized thing without meaning to. You'll see as it gets later in the video. But yeah, really happy with how it turned out.
So what made you choose the points that we're seeing, aside from the Grey Tower itself?
Well, this is the Grey Tower is visible on the horizon for a couple of the main cities, and they all have a river and a road nearby. So this could be Faybridge or Low Tower, really. Well, it's probably Faybridge because it's got a stone tower. Low Tower is a little bit more of a farming community.
So we're seeing this from a specific view, then?
Yeah, there's an abstracted view from the parapets of the stone walls of Faybridge. So yeah, you've been playing the game for a while. How are you liking it?
I like it.
Yeah. That's why you keep showing up.
I'm, also I'm married too.
It doesn't mean you have to play at my D&D games. It just means that I will be disappointed if you're not having fun at my D&D games.
It means I play in your D&D games. But, yeah, I like the world. I'm not one of the characters who ever has a map, which means I can safely just be dragged along, and that's fine. I don't need to know specifically where I am.
Yeah, you're one of the few not getting dragged back to your homeland right now, so...
Yeah. Well, because I left mine on purpose.
Well, yeah.
For now, I'm just helping other people on their quests, for the most part.
Yeah.
And our big one, which involves the Great Tower.
Because it's spewing out undead, which are attacking the countryside.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to fix that. Because you got like 3-4 days before a war breaks out over it.
And this isn't something from like a book that has a campaign in it. This is just from
No.
you.
I never really did modules. Like, I would use modules and other books as inspirations.
Guidelines.
But, yeah. But I could never just sit down and like play someone else's module, because I always want to throw in enough of my own ideas. It just wasn't worth it. So I've always done homebrew.
See, I like that though, and you can collect your worlds.
Yeah.
And you can show other people. You can make modules that then other people could play.
I should make modules and world books, because I've come up with a lot of these over the years.
Yeah, and you're already doing so much with like magic items and stuff like that, and monsters.
Yeah.
And you're showing people that with the Tusken's Tales Patreon. And you've got a Gumroad for it.
Yeah.
So
you can buy the individual sheets.
Yeah, so it'd be like the next logical step. We talked about doing an NPC book.
Yeah. Just had to collect all the NPCs for magic item books.
Yeah, I do think this would be like the next logical step.
Yeah.
Here's the world to put everything in.
Because right now I'm working on a new animation puppet for Tusken, so he's more articulated.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I might sit down and just make my focus between videos be just churning out content, magic items and maps and like little one-shot things.
Might as well.
Yeah,
Might as well.
I'm making it anyway.
You're making it anyway, and you have instant playtesters. We know that your things are fun, so that's, I think, useful. You're not just going in, deciding that this is going to be something that other people want to play. You know people want to play it.
Yeah, and there's I got stuff. I got ideas.
Yeah.
So I went, as you can see, I'm doing blobs of color. Like they were big, I think, in the Western Americas. Like travel ads for like the redwood trees in Grand Canyon would be very like just blobs of color, the abstract of the canyon or the redwoods.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of going for that kind of look.
It's a very classic, just minimalist.
Yeah, very classic minimalist travel poster.
Mm-hmm. And I like your color choices.
But I do have to get some shading in there to imply some depth, so here I am figuring out where the shadows are going to be on the parapet.
Parapet.
Where the light source is.
I like that word, parapet.
Parapet. I also like the word parapet.
Oh, I like the shape you're creating here with the shadow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool looking.
With the angle on the other side, you can see that it cuts in there, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the mountains need shadows. This turned out, when I put the snow on the mountains, it turned out so well. Like, better than I could have expected. There are some rough spots on the mountains that I'm finding, but I go back for those.
I do like all the shapes, though.
So typically my shading, I don't typically push it that hard, but I should.
Yeah, with the stark contrast, it's really nice. Everything pops.
The shadows, like, really make the mountains. Like, this is one of my favorite mountain ranges I've ever drawn. And it's because I pushed it super hard.
That's why I like these challenges. It's a chance to just try something. See if we like something else. Learn something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'm trying to fix this real quick. Yeah.
You got it.
Make it even more stark, but then you could, like, the lines weren't smooth, and, like, mountains don't do that, so I had to smooth a few of them.
Mm-hmm. And you got the trees right below that.
And it's like, make it snow. And I just love the way that looks.
Yeah. Just a dusting.
Yeah. So good. So good, the mountains.
It's nice every time you zoom out, too. So we get the close-up, and then here's what it actually looks like farther away.
Yeah.
It's
And then
trees.
Yeah. Well, the trees, I ended up doing a gradient with. As you can see, I just had to get it to be in the proper place and subtle enough.
Yeah.
Because things, the color's kind of dull as it gets further away. It's a good pushback. And then similarly for the foregrass, just so that has a receding effect as well. Oh, doing the riverbank. This I was glad I caught, because like the river's not just going to be a blue blob. From this angle, you'd be able to see the riverbank on the other side. So if I was really going hard on it, I would put like some reeds and trees and rocks down there. But I just put color blobbed it.
No, because you're going for simple. This is minimalist.
Still gave depth to the river.
Yeah.
So you can see the flow.
Well, like you also have the gradients. It's just a nice additional texture, and here's the Great Tower.
And this is when I realized I didn't draw the tower yet.
That's important.
So it's gotta be, it's real far away. This doesn't, there's in-game, there is like a ring of corruption and rot going around the tower, which I did not represent in here. So yeah, this is probably like when the Great Tower has freshly arrived, because it just appeared one day. So. Also, I use a lot of different grays in this too, because I don't know if you can notice, but the mountains are like a yellow gray, and the tower is a purple gray, and the fore parapet is a blue gray, and that way every gray is slightly different, and also that having the mountains being a yellow gray means it pops the purple out, so it doesn't just get lost.
Yeah, I also like the mountains being a warm gray, because the implication of the sun hitting the mountains, you know? Yeah.
And then make it bigger, and sprinkle above the mountains, and the eye just kind of draws, like, through to the tower.
Mm-hmm. Solstice Valley.
Me trying to figure out how to place everything properly. And choose the right fonts.
Visit Solstice Valley.
And then figuring out what the phrase was going to be.
Yeah, the tagline.
What's the tagline of the Solstice Valley? Former seat of the Elven Empire? I wanted to be... The undead are not that bad.
The undead are not that bad.
That's currently the biggest thing in tourism, is the undead pillaging the roads and small towns.
Not that bad.
Visit Solstice Valley. The undead are not that bad. Some of them are alright. You're partying with one of them.
That's true.
So, visit Solstice Valley. The undead are not that bad. So I was very happy with how this turned out.
No, I like this a lot. I like the shapes. I like the colors. I like the composition.
It was a success. I tried new things, and I don't hate it. Yeah.
I did Cornsbrook.
What is Cornsbrook?
Cornsbrook is where most of my work takes place. I could argue all of it, because even in Moth, it doesn't take place in Cornsbrook, but he talks about Cornsbrook. He talks about how awful it is, and how no one should ever go there.
It's all like a Western Massachusetts-y, but Providence-y, kind of.
Yeah. It's a combination of every place I've ever lived. Because, you write what you know. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And a lot of upstate New York. But it's where a lot of serial killers live. Like Dead Ray.
I always did find it interesting, because I can't help but make completely new worlds whenever I go in to do something creative. And all your stuff exists within the same grand narrative. Like, Stephen King did this also.
That's true.
So
I don't compare me to Stephen King.
I'm super impressed. Well,
He's like a
Stephen
real
King's
man.
had his ups and downs. Like, you're like, oh, don't compare me to Stephen King. Like, the man wrote about killer frogs. You're fine. Like,
In any case,
I really like the gradients you did here.
thank you.
Is that the theme of the video, gradients?
Minimalism, I think. But yeah, it's...
Look at that.
It's all one world. And, you know, Dead Ray is a serial killer, but he finds love and friendship and eventually kills people a lot less often. Whereas Morgan Barrel killed people until he died, and now he's just in hell forever. So, yeah, that too. Oh Heldana never mentions Cornsbrook, but Morgan Barrel is in that story as Calendar. So, they're all connected anyway.
Yeah.
Which means the first thing I wrote, he's already dead.
Favorite character. Killed him first off.
Yeah. Oh, he's awful. But, you know, a lot of my characters start out dead. I don't know what that says about me as a person. I made some decisions here.
Says characters make poor choices.
This is the asylum, and I want it to be very stark. And I guess literally dark. Because it'll get darker. And it looked too much like a factory to me. So I started adding pieces. Be like, I want this to be a big, imposing building, and not a factory. So I'm just collecting bits of it, and, you know, screwed it all up. There, got it all together.
Oh, nice.
And wasn't happy with the gradient. So,
You want it to be a little subtle.
well, I made it just black. I said fine, never
Which
mind.
makes it stand out even more, because everything
Yeah.
else is a gradient. So that's
Exactly.
just being, like, the solid object.
Exactly. I thought about putting a moon in. I had this whole thought for the background, and I just didn't.
If you're going to put a moon in, you'd have to put a pupil on it.
Something. But here, I've decided to have windows. Lots and lots of
This is an
windows.
interesting way to make windows.
Lots and lots of rectangles. Because I wanted it all to be minimalist and simple. And thousands of windows. That's simple, right? Too many windows? Did I give it a door? I don't know if I gave it a door.
You can be that famous diner painting.
I feel like that keeps coming up because I just don't think about it.
No
And-
doors.
There's just no doors. Cornsbrook also has a school / like hospital museum. It's mostly museum school, and then it has this wing that's a lab, and that is not pictured here. This
Is that the
just-
university? All the with all the other nonsense on campus?
Yes,
Ah.
Ugly Fish is university,
Yeah.
and yeah, but this is just the asylum, and I have that hill there for Morgan Barrel's house, which still stands even after his death. Other people have tried to live there; it never works out.
What is the importance of Morgan Barrel in your universe?
He's just an awful... It's the idea of, like, stories where there's just this terrible force, a house is entirely haunted. He's, like, the start of that. He was just
okay.
this terrible person in his family's house. Wound up being the reason his entire family was gone.
He's the ingrown hair that became the infection of Cornsbrook.
Right. So he
Interesting.
So his house is important because of that.
So you know he's in Oheldana, and
Yeah.
he's in Moth, and they're talking about designing a video game, which is still on the table, and
Well,
he's
he's-
in that.
He's not in Moth, but he's in another related story to Moth. In another...
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, another Geckman story. And even then,
He's
it's,
in a Geckman story.
it's
not
posthumously.
Yep.
He's already dead. But his legend lives on. His sister has her own story, or at least will. And she's also broken.
Now, is Morgan Barrel that, like, known to be that bad in universe? Like, is there a section of Cornsbrook that, like, did the Salem, Massachusetts thing? It's just like, oh boy, Charlie Manson was born here.
Kind of.
Alright.
Because they know that he was a prolific serial killer and that he specifically targeted women.
So, yeah, they've got, like, a creepy museum somewhere for the dark tourists.
Yeah. And there are... there's a copycat killer, because that's what's going to be in a later Geckman story.
Mm.
It's not him, it's the copycat killer. There's also,
Don't give away the story.
some thoughts that places are just haunted by him, and...
I like how you did this all with the select tool.
Yeah, I was playing with
Like,
that.
it's certainly a different style, and it's turning out very interesting. Like the way you did the...
That doesn't sound
like
a compliment.
No. Like, non-dismissively interesting. Like, the way you're doing it, I would not think of doing it this way, but it's coming out very good. I really like the way the lake, it, like, just plopped in there naturally.
That's the Nihoka Lake.
And that's the creature from Ugly Fish.
Mm-hmm. One of two. And, half of these things aren't even out in the world yet, but I know them. They're half-written.
I've read versions of them. They're coming out.
Yeah. Dead Ray, the book is collected and done.
Yep.
I know Heldana, the book is collected and done.
Moth, really, we just have to do that last pass, making sure that the periods are where they're supposed to be, and then that's got to go for formatting.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not going to be out by the time this video gets out, but within a year of that, it'll be out.
Yeah, and I already have outlines for 3 other books of moth-related. Gekman Chronicles, whatever the hell I'm calling the series.
Gekman Mysteries, I think. 'Cause they're not all cases.
Gekman Investigations.
That's what it was.
And, yeah. So that's Morgan's house. I love my little Cornsbrook. It happened because I realized that in dreams, lucid or otherwise, all of my nightmares happened in the same town. And eventually I decided that was Cornsbrook.
Huh.
So even as a little kid, I was in this place. And every time I went to a school, it was the same school, but it was never actually, like, the real one I went to in real life. It was this other version. So I just adopted it. And decided if my brain came up with it, it's mine, I can use it. If my brain's gonna torture me with it, I might as well utilize it.
So as a child, your happy place was Murder Town.
As a child, my nightmare place was Murder Town, and then I decided to just own it. And then it became a source of comfort.
Now you're mayor of Murder Town.
Now I'm mayor of Murder Town. It got to a point where I would see characters I created after the fact in dreams, like they wound up retroactively being there, and they would always know who I was.
You're the mayor.
And it was never like they were talking to God or anything. It was just kind of like, oh, you're aware of me now. Like as though I just needed to notice them. And never any ill will. And that's really when the lucid dreams started happening more often. There was this sense of control, because it was just kind of, okay, I guess I live here now.
We dream very differently.
Most people don't dream that. What I have is mental illness. But
I have trauma.
I have trauma. This is me deciding how I want it to look.
Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't want to leave anyway. That's the tagline. Because especially if you wind up in Cornsbrook Asylum, very rarely does someone leave.
Cornsbrook Asylum, now with guest passes.
Yeah, most people never leave. Sometimes, if they do, everyone else assumes that they died. Because what else could possibly happen? There's a cult wandering around.
There's a bunch of cults.
Yeah. They're kind of in
Because Entropy Head is also in Cornsbrook.
Yeah. They're not particularly effective cults. Like, they could be really scary, and then they aren't, because the people in charge of them are stupid. But, if someone else took over, it could be, like, really devastating.
Like any bureaucratic organization, mostly ineffectual. Hopefully, no one efficient gets to be in charge, or there'll be a problem.
Exactly. And I did do some minor changes after I was done recording, so...
You cheated?
A little bit. See, I added the path, and I added the little ripples in the water.
I like how the path is almost like a crack in the world. Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Okay, you didn't cheat that bad. No. I forgive you.
No. And like I said, I almost added a moon and clouds and things, and I decided it would just be too busy.
If the moon took up was mostly off screen but had a people on it, I would have accepted it.
So, Cornsbrook, hopefully you didn't want to leave anyway.
Visit our places.
Rock on.
Rock on.